Hi guys, happy 2025, happy new year. I wanted to, well, first of all, I'm a little bit late to this, but I did want to make the first video of the year like a resolutions video. I know I spoke about it a little bit in the previous video, but yeah, I'm someone who likes to plan my year, likes to set resolutions. Whether I stick to them or not, that's another story. But I think it's good to start the year off with something in mind, some kind of practices in mind, and like behavioral changes. Obviously, on Athrú, we're all about sustainability. So I wanted to make some resolutions, almost like a challenge, like an Athrú challenge. I'll be trying to stick to it as well, on how to live more sustainably, kind of in fashion and in our like clothing choices and whatever, and also beyond that. So this is 25 ways to be more sustainable in 2025. The first way to be more sustainable in 2025, and it's something that I really need to listen to, is to shop my own wardrobe first. When we live in such a like consumer and consumption driven world, like everyone wants that new thing, and I'm definitely guilty of this. Even though I shop secondhand, I'm still, constantly scrolling through Vinted or whatever. When I have things that are similar in my wardrobe, we get bored with what we have, or maybe we're seeking that kind of dopamine hit of like getting something new to us. Taking stock and inventory of your own wardrobe, shopping that first before you even touch any of the apps, even if it is secondhand apps or whatever, just seeing what you have and trying to kind of really love and use the clothes that you own. I spoke about this a little bit in my video with my nanny. She has such an incredible wardrobe. And then when I was home in Dublin, I realized, oh, actually, I do as well. And there's loads of clothes here that I'd kind of left behind and forgotten about. And then I've been looking for things that are similar, completely forgetting about those ones. So yeah, that's my first goal, is to shop my own wardrobe first. The second, I guess, rule or way to be more sustainable in 2025 is to make secondhand shopping your first choice, or just to shop secondhand, especially around this time of year when there's so many sales and things like that. You kind of forget that, like, actually, we have enough clothes. I know I quote this stat all the time, but we don't need to produce any more clothes and we don't need to buy any more new clothes. I've been thinking about this a lot. I kind of hate the term secondhand because it immediately places it second in your mind. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it makes it sound like the worst option when really it's a better option for the planet. It's a better option for us because it saves us money. I like the term pre-loved, but again, I don't know. There's something about it that sounds like it's second best or something. Anyway, that's a side note. But yeah, making secondhand your first choice. We're so blessed and lucky now to have apps like Vinted, like Depop, like eBay, even like adverts. Sarah always talks about this, but like adverts.ie before Vinted. Like, we have so many clothes in at our disposal. And obviously charity shops, vintage shops, there is just like an abundance of secondhand clothes. There is absolutely no excuse. I think unless it's things like underwear, there really is no excuse to buy firsthand. Along the same kind of lines, if you have an event or something that you're going to that you need, like an occasion dress, or even just like a party or anything, I think renting is such an amazing way. There's so many incredible Irish renting brands or like websites and shops that you can rent from that have like beautiful occasion wear that would cost you so much money if you were to buy it. And I've definitely had this logic before of like, oh yeah, but I still could get like a dress for €30 and then I'd be able to keep it or sell it on. And it's really difficult to sell things on like that. I think when something is so cheap, it's quite difficult to like make money off it or sell it again. You can get like designer pieces that well, I definitely couldn't normally buy, but I could rent it for a night or like a weekend. It's nice. You get that kind of little touch of luxury without having to break the bank or buy something new and then have to deal with, oh, do I keep it? Do I sell it? Where can I put this? Whatever. Again, along similar lines, the fourth way to be more sustainable is borrowing from your friends. I want this to make a comeback because I remember as a teenager, this would be such a thing. Like, everyone would be borrowing the same Lipsy dress for the disco and whatever, and it would do the rounds among the whole year. And that was such a fun expression of like girlhood as well and like sisterhood. I think that's such a lovely idea. I think if I ever have an event this year, I will definitely be either finding something in my own wardrobe, renting it, or seeing what my friends have. The fifth then is repair, don't replace, because companies are seeing clothes as so disposable and like pushing that narrative that clothes are disposable and you can just buy a new thing for super cheap the next day. That's not how we should see our clothing. I think we need to pour a little bit more love into our clothing. And if we truly love our clothes, we would want to extend the life of them. I really want to get into mending, like mending socks, mending or darning, is that what it's called? With thread, and like hand sewing things, physically kind of repairing something yourself and for yourself. It's kind of like an act of love to the garment and an act of love to yourself. The sixth way to be more sustainable in 2025 is to upcycle. I think this is a pretty self explanatory one, but this could be things that you already own or things that you have gotten from friends or family, things that you've found out in charity shops or whatever. Upcycling it into something that you know you will love. I don't know, even if it's like a hideous piece of clothing, you can alter it and make it into something completely new. And it's such a creative practice as well. I think it's good for our brains. A blanket like that I don't want anymore. What can I do with this and how can I change this and alter it into something I love? Or let's say you have in your mind like, oh, I really want a ruffle skirt, and you have like an old bed sheet upstairs, whatever, that you haven't used. There's so many examples, and I think being on like upcycling side of TikTok as well is really helpful. Then repurposing. So this kind of comes at the end of a piece of clothing or garments like life cycle, I guess. If let's say I have a whole load of socks with holes in them and they're, you know, stained and whatever, or if I have like t-shirts that have stains in them that I can't get out. I think going back to like cutting them into rags, I don't know if anyone else's like parents did this, cutting things into rags, or I love this idea is when you have a load of fabric that you don't want, maybe like old tea towels and stuff, chopping them up and using them as like pillow stuffing or cushion stuffing, I think is such an interesting way to do it. Like a patchwork bag. I think it's important that we consider every single way we can use a piece of clothing before we chuck it out and before we go into landfill. More mindful that this is like a tangible thing and it doesn't get, when you throw it away, it doesn't go away, it stays on the earth. So how can we just, yeah, repurpose it in some way? The eighth way to be more sustainable in 2025, and I hate that this is so far down because I think this is actually really, really important. Avoiding synthetics is like an absolute must. It just needs to become a practice as well. If you are used to buying new, it's really important that you look in the product description of every item that you purchase. Make sure you're not purchasing plastic. I'll make a little list of them here. But yeah, avoiding synthetics is kind of an absolute must, I think. So buying natural like cotton, linen, wool will last you longer, and also it's better for the environment. They all come from natural resources. Single piece of like synthetic fabric or fibers can last up to 200 years in landfill. If you buy one blazer or one blouse from the likes of Pennies or Zara or whatever, and it's 100% polyester, and you buy it just for one job interview, you buy it for like one Christmas party or thing, one festival, and you're like, oh, that's fine, I'll just, you know, donate it or throw it away after. That'll last 200 years somewhere. I think making that kind of statement directly with your money and with your pocket, I think sends like a really clear message that we're not going to purchase synthetic fibers anymore. Number 9 is like just a small one, but I think it's also important. The one thing that I still kind of purchase from fast fashion companies every now and again is things like jewelry or like little accessories. They always fall apart or turn green, and that's not what I want. So I think if you must buy new, avoid synthetics and also invest in quality over quantity. Saving up for one really, really nice wool coat that might be like 150 or whatever is better than buying a load of €30 jackets that won't last you, you won't want, and they're very like micro trendy or whatever. I think I used to have like a coat from Miss Selfridge that gave the illusion of it being a wool coat. It was not. It was freezing. And also the lining was really sweaty. Everything about it was like, I hated wearing it. Again, with like leather, I want to make a TikTok about this, but decent leather jacket from a vintage shop could cost you maybe like 50, €60 at the higher end, maybe up to like 80 quid if you were buying like a designer one, whatever, is much better than buying a €35 jacket from Zara, which I think they're actually more expensive than that. That's pleather because it won't last and it will just break down. I've seen countless videos on TikTok of just like melting pleather, and I'm going to make one as well of something that I have. But yeah, investing in quality over quantity if you must buy new. The 10th one then, and the final one for fashion, unsubscribing and unfollowing. Unsubscribing, as in getting rid of all the notifications from the likes of Zara, ASOS, like unsubscribing to the emails, especially ones from like Shein or Temu or whatever. I bought from Shein, I think twice during COVID, and it haunts me to this day. I was still getting emails from them. Like, I think they email probably every single day. It's relentless. We get enough advertising and bombardment as it is without having to like voluntarily put that in our email addresses. It just won't be in your radar, because I think as soon as you hear a discount, I used to get this for Urban Outfitters as well. Whenever you make a purchase, you would get like a little bit off or like a voucher off or something like that online. Then I would be so easily enticed to go onto the website and be like, oh, what do I need from here? I didn't need anything. I was just trying to use up this like discount that isn't actually beneficial for me in any way. Unfollowing, this is pretty self-explanatory as well, but if you are following people that are doing hauls every few weeks or buying new or constantly have like new outfits, if you are trying to be more sustainable, it is really difficult if you're being constantly, you know, reminded that you could get this new thing and you should run, don't walk, and whatever. So I think unfollowing people that are a bad influence on you. On the positive side of that, start following people who do shop sustainably and like are doing like charity shop hauls and things like that, and then it becomes like normalized. 11 to 13 is about beauty. So the first one that I'm literally obsessed with, so number 11, is using up your products. This kind of sits in the same realm as like shopping your own wardrobe. Project Pan has been all over my TikTok and Instagram, and as well as like the underconsumption trend, which I do get the argument that like this is just regular consumption, which is true. But I think when we're being exposed to like countless new beauty products, especially on the whatever side of the algorithm I'm on, it's just like constant bombardment of different products, like Road Beauty, I need this, and like this is the new Charlotte Tilbury, da da da. And then it's like my entire page becomes that. I've so been sucked into it. I made actually on my personal TikTok, I've made a few videos about Project Pan, because specifically things like lip products is a massive one for me. Hair care, I always feel like I need the new like Olaplex thing. Not that I've bought any of it, but like I just have been stockpiling beauty products both here and at home, and I don't think it's as bad as some other videos on the trend, but it is crazy. Like I had shower gels, conditioners, shampoos in Dublin that they were just sitting there. I wasn't using them. I have like 2 eye creams. Do I need 2 eye creams at a time? No. So I'm trying to treat my own beauty space as like almost like a boots shop or some kind of shop within itself. And this is beneficial, or I guess sustainable, because it indirectly like decreases demand for these beauty products, which not only includes like all these chemicals within the beauty products themselves and that the production of the product itself, but as well like the packaging, the shipping, all of that demand is reduced. If we can use up the products that we already have and just take a step back, then it also tricks our brain into not consuming as much, and therefore the demand for that consumption goes down, the production goes down, and it's all just kind of a win-win, I guess. There are a few beauty products that I have in mind, but I'm not allowing myself to buy them until I've used up their equivalent. So for example, I really want a cool toned bronzer, but I also have 3 Yahulas on the go, so I'm going to try and use those up before I buy this cool toned one. So we've talked about using up. The 12th way to be more sustainable is to swap out. We don't realize how much we waste with like makeup wipes and cotton wool pads, like plastic packaging in general. And there's small kind of swaps that we can put in. You can get bamboo heads for electric toothbrushes or bamboo toothbrush. You can get reusable razors. You can find natural deodorants. Something I love is like refillable. So I'm going to start, I have refillable soap at the minute that was like one small change I implemented last year. I think I'm going to do it for like shampoos and conditioners, reusable makeup pads, reusable face cloth, swapping out as well for our health, your aerosol deodorant for natural deodorant. We already have so many chemicals around us that we're we're not even aware of, like even like the lacquer on our floors, or a lot of our clothes again are full of microplastics because we in the 70s started producing clothes with plastic. So wherever we can eliminate chemicals, I guess the better for our own health. An app that I love is the Yucca app, or Yucca app, whatever way you want to pronounce it. Some people have said that it's actually not that accurate when it comes to the levels of chemicals and stuff, but I think knowing, scanning label and seeing like, oh God, there actually is like carcinogens in this. Why am I putting this on my body? So yeah, swapping out is the 12th one for sustainability and also for our own health. When I've used up my makeup that I have, I'm going to start to buy more natural makeup. The 13th one then is to recycle beauty correctly. Something I've been using is the Boots recycling app. I'm literally addicted to it. You can get Boots points, which is really handy. Before, not gonna lie, if it wasn't like a clear like plastic bottle, or like something that's quite obvious, like a shampoo bottle or something that can so obviously go into the recycle bin once it's cleaned out. Other than that, like I'm thinking like face creams, any of those squeezy things, I would just have chucked them in the normal bin. So it's amazing that shops like Boots have implemented this, where you can select the type of bottle it is or the type of packaging it's in, and then you just drop it, deposit it at your local Boots. It's such an amazing process, and it feels like really rewarding when you finish a product and you can go recycle it at Boots and get your little points. It's a nice little reward scheme. The next 6 then are about kind of household, and I guess again like daily life, daily practices. The 14th one is to buy local. Buying locally, obviously you're reducing the transportation time. I think everyone knows to buy local, but it is something that you have to kind of train yourself or like trick yourself into doing, and really like making it kind of like a habit of reading labels, looking at things and buying locally. Something I really want to get into is going to more kind of farmers markets or like local food markets. Yes, it's at a premium price, but I think there is something really lovely about it. And you're seeing the person who grew the food for you feels more nurturing to yourself. 15th one is to buy seasonally. This is something I really want to learn more about, is to figure out kind of when things are in season, because we're able to buy, let's say like bananas in October if we wanted to. Knowing what grows in our native ecosystem, and I think there's something really beautiful. Sorry, this is so like, I can so easily slip into like spiritual. I think there's something really beautiful about like your body aligning with the seasons, eating the root vegetables that grew from the land that you're from, and acknowledging that like they're also going through the same season that you're going through. I hope that makes sense. I'm not going crazy, but again, it just means that we're eliminating kind of unnecessary transport, and we don't know what is happening abroad. Buying locally and buying seasonally kind of come hand in hand. We know exactly where our food is coming from, and yeah, we can trace that to a place that's not far from us. 16 is being packaging prepared for packaging, whatever you want to say. Buying loose veg and coming with your own reusable produce bag. I have been using kind of last year. Sometimes I would forget it. Once you become kind of aware of plastic packaging, and this is something as well that I have been, I think, really ignorant to. I think it's something that I've tried like kind of to ignore a lot as well. I've obviously like, I'm very big on sustainable fashion, and I was, as I said, like vegan for a really long time. And I think I was just kind of being like, oh, but I do so much, and that's not really good enough. I've been consuming a lot of like produce just because it's cheaper in plastic packaging, when I could have just brought my produce back. It's not actually, doesn't actually work out that much cheaper. It's just like convenience and laziness. And it's something that I really want to get better at, is bringing my own produce bag and buying loose veg. I don't think it's good for us to keep consuming food from plastics. I don't know the statistics behind it, and I don't know the direct cause of it, but like, we already know there's so much microplastics in our food system. So I think eliminating that wherever we can, and not eating things that have been sitting in plastic packaging, I really need to implement this year. It's like a massive focus for me, along with the next one, which is 17, avoiding purchasing plastics. This is a major one because I talk a big game, as I said, about like sustainable fashion and not eating red meat and using public transport, yada yada yada. One thing I'm like addicted to is big hoops and Snickers. And I definitely as well last year drank a lot of like fizzy drinks and things like that from plastic. So one massive focus for me is to avoid plastics when I can. So anything, especially like snacks that I really don't need, or like have crisp packets that can't be recycled. I think those like unnecessary purchases are just really wasteful. Plastic can last up to like 200 years, if not more. And I just throw it directly into the black bin because that's all you can do with it. I'm just trying to eliminate plastics where I can. The 18th one, and this is quite a like privileged position, is like those kind of refill shops is something I want to get into and like invest in almost. If I need something like nuts or seeds, I think those shops are an amazing investment. You can just bring a jar, fill it up, and then take it home. I think it works out only slightly dearer, but you don't have that impact of all the packaging involved. Natural household products, I think you can buy there as well. 19 is a really obvious one, but recycle. Be really mindful when it comes to like tech recycling. You have like a broken kettle and stuff, making sure that's not going into landfill, that it's like properly treated, properly recycled. For beauty products, using something like the Boots recycling app, because when things are like hard to recycle, it needs to be specifically treated. Recycling just as you usually would. Okay, the next 5 are a little bit more abstract, something that maybe we don't hear about, we don't talk about enough, but can make a massive difference. The first one is actually super easy. Number 20, cutting down on car usage. This is something that I think for Ireland and the UK, we have an extreme amount of like single use cars. I don't know how else, just single person car use, meaning one person per car. And to be fair, when I'm home, I do love driving in my car. But I think using public transport and making that like the first port of call when it comes to if you want to travel down the country, whatever, it might take that little bit longer. Like car usage, I want to cut down on. I think it's something that we all could probably cut down on. Public transport is not up to scratch, especially like outside of cities. Obviously, I live in London, the transport's incredible, and Dublin transport, I think, is really good. But, you know, for people who live in the countryside, it's like, it's a bit harder. Like the resources aren't there yet. But I think the more we use public transport, the more money it can generate, and then the more money that can be pumped into it. Recognize that there's a higher demand for public transport. Using natural forms of transport like walking or cycling. I'm not a cyclist at all, but I do like to walk. So I think I'm going to start doing that this year. The next one, it's a big one for me because, again, I talk a big game about like being sustainable, shopping sustainably, da da da. I live in London. I travel home a lot. I calculated my carbon footprint for last year. I also went on 2 long haul holidays. Granted, I hadn't been on like a long haul holiday in several years before that. Last year was quite a bold year for me, and my carbon footprint was really bad, like really, really bad. And I realized that like most of these changes that we can implement, it actually means nothing if we're still hopping on planes left, right, and center like 4 times a year, whatever. If we're not really prioritizing green travel choices, or just like being really like mindful about how many holidays we're taking and how often we're flying to places. So this year I'm really prioritizing, you know, taking the boat, taking the ferry, taking the train when I can. If I want to go to Europe, I can get there through Paris on the Eurostar. A ferry might take, you know, like a 2-hour train journey and then a 2-hour ferry. It's actually not that much in the difference. I haven't tried it, so I haven't done it yet, but that's like a major focus for me, is whenever I'm going home, I'm going to try and get there via ferry instead of flying, because I feel so guilty about how much I flew last year. I do really recommend like looking at your carbon footprint. Okay, this is quite like it's just like a little one, but I think it's something that we could all do, especially for our wallets and our pockets, is green proofing our house. Being mindful of when we're using our heating and gas, and seeing how we can make that usage go further. So draft proofing your house, maybe using, I've been reading a lot about like heat pumps. I guess avoiding using your heating until absolutely necessary. This kind of builds off that. So number 23 is to buy secondhand furniture and stuff. This kind of is the same as like the fashion one, making secondhand your first choice. So if we're decorating our house or like replacing something, interior designing, going to car boot sales, going to like secondhand sales, or using, you know, adverts.ie or Facebook Marketplace. I'm addicted to Facebook Marketplace. But like using those as your, as I said, like first port of call, you can make such a savings on that, like by using furniture that you could get elsewhere. I've gotten lamps for free. I've gotten tables for free. I've gotten loads of stuff from Facebook Marketplace that was like a fraction of the price. I think as well in places like cities like Dublin or London or wherever you live, people are moving and there's a high kind of turnover and people are always getting rid of stuff instead of purchasing kind of cheap, the fast fashion of furniture. 24, again, this is when it starts to get a bit abstract. I think 24, going analog. This is something that's a bit ironic for me to be saying when I'm literally like filming on a phone and uploading this to YouTube or whatever. Finding hobbies that don't exist in or don't use electricity to be used. One thing I really want to eliminate is I put off using ChatGPT or like AI stuff for the longest time. Admittedly, in the last month, I started using it. Last maybe like 2 months, I've started using it very sparingly, but like I always knew that data centers were negative and that they use so much electricity. A lot of Ireland's energy usage is like from these data centers, which is like insane. ChatGPT and AI has such a massive environmental impact that I feel like everyone is just ignoring at the minute. I didn't realize how detrimental it was, and that can only get worse as well, which is kind of scary the more people use it and stuff like that. So I'm trying to not use that. We have brains, we can use our own intelligence as well. I'm trying not to use my phone as much. And energy conservation side of things, like I don't want to be using energy on my laptop, on my phone, like the lights, whatever. If I have a movie playing on my laptop, I'm also scrolling on my phone and I have the light going and the diffuser and whatever, and I'm using so much at all times. Find a hobby that doesn't need either of those to be enjoyable. Things like hand sewing, I'd like to get into like embroidery or knitting, crochet. An offshoot of that is like, and in the kind of tech discussion of it all, if we must buy tech, buying that secondhand. So my laptop, I got this actually on Depop from a girl in Dublin. So my Mac is secondhand. My phone that I'm filming on, I got on Swappy. It's a 14 Pro. It's really good. I think probably like 3/4 of the price and also secondhand. This is like a whole other discussion, but cobalt, I think it's cobalt, whatever. As much as we can as consumers, like eliminate the overproduction and overconsumption of like tech. It's not like an everyday purchase. A phone is obviously isn't an everyday purchase, but I think those big kind of purchases, we need to be really mindful about where they're coming from and the impact of them. This one is a massive one, divesting. So I'm actually not familiar with the Irish banks that invest in fossil fuels, and I don't know if there are any, but I know that like UK banks and then their subsidiaries that maybe exist in Ireland do invest in fossil fuel. So like I'll leave a list of the banks that have invested in fossil fuel. The action or like the resolution with this is to remove your money, which is really like how that's what they use to invest in fossil fuels. I think removing that, you might say, okay, Alana, I only have like 2 grand to my name. What am I going to do with that? Like, how are banks going to approach that? But if everyone, like if 50,000 people did that, not saying that 50,000 will see this video, but I'm just saying like as a collective, if like, we boycott and 50,000 people remove their money from that particular bank and invest it in a bank that is doing good, that's like a whole lot of money. Also voting for people that will put green practices first. We're at a point in the climate crisis that we cannot be voting in people that aren't taking this seriously and it's not their number one mission. That is the 25 ways to be more sustainable in 2025. Any other ways that you're trying to input or implement sustainability into your life, do let me know in the comments. Seeing other people's resolutions makes me really excited. So yeah, let me know what you think. I also am going to make this like a pledge. If you've gotten this far in the video, maybe you'll do a little pledge with me. This is I guess this video is like my pledge to be more sustainable. If you want to pluck a few out from this video and make that your pledge, that's kind of what this video is for. Let me know what you're pledging below and what your resolution is. Some other resolutions, just while we're on the topic, and some other resolutions for Athrú and where I want to see Athrú go. I know I've said this before on like our TikTok and stuff, but I really don't want Athrú to be just me. I would love for it to be like a community. I would love to host a live event. There's such a beautiful like online community, and I'm so grateful and so happy with everyone who has followed so far. I would love to like meet everyone in person and like for us to kind of connect, yeah, have a good time. So I think I'm gonna try and host some little sustainable fashion events. So stay tuned for that, and subscribe below if you want to see more videos. We'll have a lot more videos this year in the next few months as well. Bye.